Hi friends, I'm coming at you today with 10 books I want to read before the end of the year. Now it is going to be a bit intimidating, and am I going to be able to read all of these? I'm not too sure because there's literally only a month and a half left in the year, and 10 books is kind of a lot, but regardless, I'm going to tell you which ones are on my radar. These are really heavy, so I'm going to put them down. And then aside from the 10 that I'm gonna say I want to read by the end of the year, I do have two Christmas books that I also want to add to my TBR, so I'll mention those and talk about those at the end. So I'm actually gonna quickly start with 3 books that are evidently on my November TBR, which I got very lucky with because these 3 I have been eyeing all year, and I definitely want to make them a priority to finish before the end of the year. First one being Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, which is really funny to me because last year I did this exact same video. One of the books that I mentioned in that video was the first Magnolia Park's book, so we've come full circle. I did end up reading that one before the year ended, and I have actually caught up in the series. This is the last book that's out. This is the last Magnolia Park's book in the series itself. I'm actually reading this one right now because this one happens to be on my November TBR. I'm about 150 pages in, which is a decent amount, but this book is actually 700 pages long. I don't know if you can really tell in the video, but she's a chunky one, but I will say I have found it very entertaining already. I am pretty hooked. I am invested. I have grown to love and care for these characters. So I cannot wait to see kind of what happens with Magnolia, with BJ, and all the other side characters. So this is definitely one that I'm going to prioritize finishing before the end of the year, hopefully before the end of November, and I can give you guys my thoughts on this. Next up is 11/22/63 by Mr. Stephen King. Both of these books are on my November TBR, which is a little intimidating because they are very chunky. This one's even longer than the Magnolia Park's book. This one's about, actually it might be around the same. Oh wait, no, this one's 800 pages, so love that for me. I have actually started this one as well, but I'm only 20 pages in, which is not anything at all. It's probably 1 or 2% in, but I absolutely want to prioritize this before the end of the year. This would be my second Stephen King book that I've read, a second in the year, and I've just heard amazing things about this. Every time I bring this book up or mention it, everyone says, oh my god, I love that book, it is so good, which I'm very excited to see what that is about and why. Again, I'm only 20 pages in, so it's not like I'm really that invested or hooked, but I am going to be reading this month. I don't know if I'm going to finish it, so hopefully by next month this one can be all done. This one is more of a time travel story, and I don't love those types of stories, so I am interested to see how I'm going to feel about it. Our main character is a high school teacher, and I've already kind of learned a little bit about him and his background, and I do like him as a character, so I just am very fascinated and cannot wait to see what the story has for me. Next up, another chunky book on my November TBR is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is book 2 in the Empyrean series, I believe is what it's called. And book 3, Onyx Storm, actually comes out in January, so that is why I am heavily prioritizing this one. Like I mentioned with Magnolia Park's, Fourth Wing, the first book in this series, was also on my 10 to read before the end of the year last year, and I was able to read it, was able to finish it. This book came out earlier this year, and I honestly was kind of put off by it because I just didn't hear the most fascinating, exciting things about it. I feel like a lot of people said it dragged on, and the length is just quite intimidating. If I hear that a book is not that great, this one's about 600 pages and it's 600 pages long, then I'm gonna put it off, and that's inevitably what I ended up doing. Hopefully I do end up liking it. I am excited to pick it up and read it and see what's in store with Violet. I don't even remember our male Zayden. Yeah, Violet and Zayden and the dragons and all the other little side characters too. I do remember it left off really crazy part. There was a cliffhanger at the end of Iron Flame, or at the end of Fourth Wing. So I cannot wait to see what this one has in store, and hopefully I find it good. Hopefully I'm still invested enough in the story to want to buy the 3rd book, of course. So I will hopefully read this by the end of the year and then update you guys on my thoughts. All right, next up is actually a book of the month pick. This is Blue Sisters by Coco Malors. I believe I got this one maybe a month or 2 ago, so it is still a decently recent release. And I just want to read this one because I think it's about like sisterhood and womanhood and grief, and sometimes you need some of those stories in your life. If you guys know me, you know that I like to read books that have like an emotional depth to them, that have more than just like stuff on the surface. Like I want to get down deep with these characters. I want to learn what drives them, what makes them who they are, and this one is kind of giving me those types of vibes. So I do want to prioritize this one, also because the Goodreads like challenge came out where they pick a couple of books for each genre, and this is one of the books that came out, and so I wasn't able to vote for it because I haven't read it. But hopefully within the next month and a half I will have read it, and hopefully I like it enough to want to vote for it. Again, the cover is absolutely beautiful too, and I am one of those people who will pick up a book and read it if the cover is beautiful, and this cover is giving me everything. Like it's just so pretty. I just love the illustration. It says the three blue sisters are exceptional and exceptionally different. So this is about Avery, Nikki, and Lucky. Those are beautiful names, so I can't wait to read this. Definitely gonna be hoping to finish this one before the end of the year. Next up is a thriller mystery, The Boyfriend by Miss Frida McFadden. This is definitely gonna be a quicker paced, fast read. It's a thriller mystery. It's Frida McFadden's newest release, came out in October or this month, I believe. And I actually have it from the library, so it is, you know, I don't have it, I don't own it. So I have to return this soon, and I'm hoping to pick it up and finish it by the end of the month, hopefully. It's not on my November TBR, so it's hard for me to want to prioritize it, but this is definitely one of those books I'm assuming that is going to be super fast paced, just like all of her other works. So if I do feel like I'm in a rut or in a bit of a slump, this is definitely going to be the book that I go to. At this point, I have read 4 other Frida McFadden books, and five Frida McFadden books, and I've liked them all. Honestly, they're all very decent, very good, again, for just picking you up and setting you on track to like continue reading. And this one just looks really interesting. It says, is he the man of your dreams or your worst nightmare? And it is called The Boyfriend, so I'm assuming it's gonna be about a woman who's dating a man and maybe things are not all that they seem to be. So that is definitely an intriguing premise. I think Frida McFadden is gonna come out with another book next year, so I just want to be on top of her works while trying to catch up with like her other ones. So like I want to read this new release and then hopefully go back to her other ones, because won't you look at that, there's a long list of different Frida McFadden books. So definitely recommend this author if you guys have never read her. I'm sure you have, because she's super popular and viral right now, but I can see why. It's for good reason. Her books are good. Another book I would love to read before the year ends is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This book is part of a series, and I actually read Powerless, which is the first book in the series, maybe last month. So it's very fresh and new in my memory, and I actually really enjoyed that first book. So I definitely want to continue the series. And again, you'll see a common theme in this video. I'm reading a lot of books in different series, and the series are continuing, and a lot of the books come out next year, so I have to like catch up because I don't want to fall too far behind. The next book in this series also comes out next year, so I don't want to fall behind. This is the next one in the series. There is actually a short like novella in between Powerless and Reckless, which is called Powerful. It's back here on the back, and I do actually own it. I bought both Powerful and Reckless together, and I haven't read Powerful yet. I think I will. It is pretty short, so I don't see that being too much of a hassle to get through. This one is also not that long either. It's like a decent length, so I do want to finish this hopefully before the end of the year. This is a romantasy type of series, so it's a fantasy but with a heavy romance subplot. The first book just was so fun. I had such a fun time reading it. If you love the Hunger Games, if you're a big fan of those like trials and the like unexpected romance of it all, then you'll definitely love this series. It's so hyped up, and I wanted to read it and see what I would think of it, because I'm not a huge fantasy reader, so I was definitely going in with like a critical type of eye. And I did have my critiques on the first book, but overall I just had fun. Like that's something I keep saying, and I just remember it was just such an adventure, and I definitely had a few jaw-dropping moments. So definitely going to continue the series, and Reckless is the next book. Next up is actually Not in Love by Hazelwood. This is a romance, kind of like a rom-com, and this came out this year. This is an Hazelwood book. I've read maybe 3 or 4 of her other books to this point, and she is just an author that I feel like I can count on to have like a fun, bantery romance. I've enjoyed all her other books before. This one is actually a little bit shorter than her like usual reads, which I love that because sometimes I feel like romances don't have to be that long. So I'm excited to see like what this one entails. I feel like what makes her stand out amongst other romance authors is that she focuses mostly on STEM romances, and those are really just entertaining. I'm not huge into like science and math. I do enjoy it having a spotlight on that. I actually don't really know what this one is about. I'm assuming it's a romance. You can tell by the cover. So I think I'm gonna go into it blindly, but I would love to read this because she also has another book coming out next year that looks very, very interesting, and it's going to be kind of more of a spicy romance. So I definitely am all in for that. But I want to read this one first and just see how this compares to her other books. I did read an Hazelwood book earlier this year. I think it was Love Theoretically, which came out last year. And again, I enjoyed it. I have enjoyed all of her books, so I don't feel like this one will be any different. Next up would be Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. This is a romance. This is the second book in the Lakefront Billionaires series. I actually read the first book in this series, I think like at the very beginning of this year. This one came out maybe like midway through this year, but I just haven't picked it up. I haven't read it. Next book out next year. You're seeing the trend. I am a big fan of Lauren Asher's works. I did want to prioritize finishing her Dreamland Billionaire series this year, and I actually did. And let me just say, the last book in that series really kind of just swept me off my feet, and I was not expecting that. When I went into that third book, I really thought the series overall was maybe a 3.5, 4-star series, but that last book I ended up rating 5 stars. I thought it was phenomenal. She really, really surprised me, and that was the last Lauren Asher book that I read, so I'm very interested to see like the differences that this one will have. Am I still going to be obsessed with her writing? Was it just that one book that I just felt differently about, and all the other ones are kind of like 3.5, 4-star books? That's kind of what's intriguing me the most about this one. This one says right here H&L, which I think is like Honolulu, but no way this takes place in Hawaii. I have no idea. Actually, no, it's literally takes place in Lake Wisteria, I'm assuming, because that's where this whole series takes place. So I don't know why it says H&L. Maybe, I mean, obviously, oh, okay, there's like a Hawaii theme on here. Maybe our characters go on vacation. I'm not too sure, but it's very intriguing. And I think this one is kind of like a single dad nanny trope. So I have read a few of those this year, and I am enjoying them. So I'm interested to see how I'll feel about this one. Would love to read this one before the end of the year, but if I don't get to it, definitely by Valentine's Day, because it's giving Valentine's Day vibes. Next up is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is the third book in the Maple Hills series. These are kind of like more interconnected books. They're not necessarily like a series that you have to read in order, or I would argue even read all of the other ones. I did read Wildfire, which is the second book that came out in that little interconnected series earlier this year. Loved it, raved about it, 5 stars. Now I'm interested to see how I'll feel about this one. This one came out about a few months ago. This is about a baker and a hockey player, I'm assuming. This is Henry, who he has made his appearances in the last book, so a lot of people have been waiting for his book, his POV, and I am very interested to see like what he is going to do. And then our female main character's name is Hallie or Haley. I'll have to figure that out because I'll probably be saying it wrong in my head, but anyway. And she's like a baker. There's like muffins or cookies on the cover, and I love baking, so I think it'll just be something really interesting to have like that be a part of her personality. And again, I actually am a very big fan of this like interconnected series, and I love the Maple Hills trilogy at this point. I definitely want to read this before the year ends because it's giving me like December winter vibes, and I think that's why I pushed it off and didn't read it right away, because I wanted to read it specifically during this time of year. Last one, book number 10, is A Man Called Ove, don't know, by Frederick Bachman. I have never ever read a Frederick Bachman book before. I have definitely heard of him, definitely heard of this book, and I think it's now, yeah, a movie with Tom Hanks. I think it's this one. If not, it's another one that he wrote, but I have just heard too many good things about this book. And for me, again, I have pushed it off a little bit because I wanted to get into it during the winter season, and I don't know why this book is screaming like winter to me, but it just is. This is mostly about like a grumpy old man, and of course his neighbors, his community, they're all part of the book, I assume. This one's just really, really popular, and I've heard so many great things about it, and I've been dying to just get my hands on this author's work. I am pretty, whoa. I feel like I am expecting a lot because it has a reputation. So is it gonna meet my expectations? Who knows? Now, very quickly, I just want to touch on two like holiday Christmas books that I do want to read because of course it's going to be the holiday season and I love to read little like Christmas books. So one of them that I own is Christmas by the Book. This looks like a little bookstore. There's a dog on the cover. There's a book stack. Like this is just obviously screaming holiday season. Don't know what it's about, but it looks like it's a bookstore. And I love books that are about books for book readers, like all that good stuff. And it so clearly is a bookstore on the cover, so. Looks like it'll be an entertaining one. And then the last one is A Holly Jolly Ever After by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. These authors co-wrote A Merry Little Meet Cute, which is a different book that I read last year for the holiday season, last year or the year before, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was such a crazy premise that it was like an adult film worker auditioning for a movie with like her favorite actor and she somehow gets the role, but he knows who she is because of her line of work. Like it was just so like crazy, but it was actually fun and it was entertaining. It was very spicy. And so when I saw that these authors came out with a new book, I mean, just look at the cover. It's beautiful, but I will say don't be fooled. I do think this is going to be a very spicy book if it's anything like the author's other works. But this one's called A Holly Jolly Ever After. Do I know what it's about? No, but there's a theater, Mistletoe Theater, and Frosty's Diner. Like, I think that's self-explanatory and I do not have to say more. But those are all the books that I want to read before the end of the year. Crossing my fingers and my toes that I get through them all, and if I do, you guys will obviously get reviews and get my thoughts on them. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.